9-year cover-up of the truth has to end.
We're interrupting our coverage.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2026 science fiction film Disclosure Day. The film is co-written and directed by Steven Spielberg, and it stars Emily Blunt, Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, Eve Hewson, Coleman Domingo and Wyatt Russell. Right, whew. Now, the film focuses on the premise of what would you do, kind of, if you found out we weren't alone and that all the conspiracy theories that you've heard over the last 60, 70 years were all true. And this film kind of brings that to the forefront. We meet Emily Blunt's character, Margaret Fairchild. She's like a news anchor stroke weatherwoman. And she experiences some kind of awakening that allows her to kind of see into the minds of other people, predict the future, all that kind of good stuff. We've got Josh O'Connor's character, Daniel Kellner, who has stolen what could only be described as some of the biggest secrets the world has ever known, and it's his intention to release this information to the world so that the world is aware that we've all been lied to for so long. However, the government baddies led by Colin Firth are not going to let that happen lightly. They don't want the secrets out. They want to be able to control all these secrets, and they are prepared to do anything to make sure those secrets aren't released to the world. Right, what are my thoughts on Disclosure Day? Well, I mean, probably I want to start off with this review to talk a little bit about Steven Spielberg and what he's meant to me growing up as a fan of movies. He's one of those that can massively influence me in my young life with the movies that he gave us, like Jaws, the Indiana Jones films. I mean, I've got such strong memories of going to see Raiders of the Lost Ark and E.T. And on and on and on. He just kept churning out these incredible movies, and he has had one of the greatest careers ever in regards to a creator, artist, stroke film director. And I think he will probably go down as the greatest ever. I mean, that's just my opinion. It's hard to argue against it. There's so many great directors. So whenever a new Steven Spielberg film comes out, it's almost like an event, I suppose, in a lot of ways, especially when he is creating what is clearly an event film. Now, his career has kind of been event films like the Indiana Jones films and the Jurassic Parks and the Jaws and all so on and so forth. But he's created, obviously the films like Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan and far more personal films, Amistad and all this kind of stuff. And some of them I've not been interested in because, it's not a subject matter that I'm that bothered about or interested in. I'm more interested in this Steven Spielberg's event films, so to speak. So I think the last event film that I would describe that he gave us was Ready Player One. And I just felt like a kid watching that in the cinema. It was just so brilliant. I loved it. So I was hoping for something of a little bit of a similar vein watching this. Now, saying all that, fortunately, I didn't really enjoy this film. It really is almost like it's just like a chase film wrapped up in a big budget. If you're wanting to watch is a really good alien like conspiracy film, it's not Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's one of the greatest ever made by Steven Spielberg. And it's almost like he's tried to top himself here. It's essentially, in a lot of ways, telling the same story, just in a different way. but completely inferior in every way to Close Encounters. Just did not click with me, this film. I, I, I didn't enjoy some of the characters here. I thought Colin Firth's government bad guy was just so one-dimensional and cliched. Emily Blunt's character was the most interesting, but also at the same time it was almost portrayed and played, I don't know, by Emily Blunt as I don't know, it was tonally off at times, and I suppose it was meant to be at times because she was confused as to who she was and what was going on. Wyatt Russell, who's in this film, I mean, I understand it. If your agent calls you and says, "Oh, Steven Spielberg wants you for a film," you're going to be an imbecile to turn it down, aren't you? But Wyatt Russell is given very little to do in this film, and added nothing, and that's a shame because Wyatt Russell is one of these actors that I feel is ready to kind of explode, if you like, to the next stage of his career, and I don't think this film will help that. Josh O'Connor's character is obviously an actor on the rise. Again, probably very much like the Wyatt Russell situation. You know, I don't know if he auditioned for this or if he was offered it. Either way, you're not going to turn down a Steven Spielberg part in a film. But again, his character, totally forgettable. And the whole mystery of the film, the whole conspiracy of the film, that we're supposed to kind of wait for this big reveal at the end that you never really get. Not in a satisfying way. And honestly, guys, I was sat in the cinema watching this, and at times I felt bored. That's not right for what was pitched to us as a Steven Spielberg event film. And I just felt like the pacing at times for this was really poor. And it felt like this possibly could have been or would have been better as a, I don't know if a TV show or a mini series or something, to let all these characters breathe a bit, let the story breathe a bit. Let us as audience members absorb everything. It just it might be an odd thing to say because I've already had a pop at the pacing of this, but it felt rushed, the story, even though the pacing was slow, if that makes sense. And I didn't buy into it, and I wasn't. I mean, you compare some of these characters to some of the characters you met in Close Encounters, Richard Dreyfuss's character and, some of the others. And just that little boy who's, you see in Close Encounters that's abducted. An incredibly tense scene. And there's some fabulous moments in that film that kind of stick with you forever. And there's not one here. There's not one moment in this film that is going to stick in the memory in regards to what should stick in your memory when you're watching a Steven Spielberg film. So yeah, it's not a bad film, and I'm sure there's probably some people out there who will get more mileage out of it than I did, but it just didn't click with me, unfortunately, this one. And I've watched a couple of reviews of this, and I thought, oh God, you've been incredibly harsh there. I mean, I'm sure it's not, as bad as what you're saying. And it isn't, but it's not a million miles away from them, being quite critical of it, as I am, I suppose. Yeah, so that's my thoughts on Disclosure Day, guys. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen the film, and I will, of course, be back with plenty more content on the channel very, very soon.